everyone. So this is Rosewood, Season 2, Episode 9. It looks like this is the mid-season finale, so where it doesn't look like there's going to be an episode until January, I think, 9th, they said. But anyway, so let's get into this episode. It's Gerald-centric, and it's basically starting off with Rosie in the woods at the bunker, looking for clues, such evidence, and it's some kind of like it's looking like some ghost shit where some ghost is running fast past him multiple times or whatever, but it turns out it's just a dream or a nightmare. Donna then visits Gerald in prison and tells him that when they exhumed Elena's coffin, her body wasn't in there, in the coffin itself. But it seems like there's some good news. Gerald's daughter Michelle was tracked through her things, and they were found in a relative's place, her cousin Lonnie's place. Gerald thinks that no matter how mad Michelle was mad at him for coming down on her for partying and staying out late and all this stuff, he feels like she would have come to visit him regardless. And thinks that whoever set him up may have gotten to her too, killed her and everything. TMI and Pippi find out that there is no body, so everyone decides to test to see if Elena's body was even in the coffin in the first place. And they test for things like decomposition and embalming fluid. Back at the station, as they're doing that, Villa asks for help from Adrian to help get a search warrant signed to get into the funeral home where Elena was buried, since a judge won't sign one for them because the judge thinks that Gerald is guilty. When Villa gets back to her desk, Rosie tells her that there was no signs of decomposition or otherwise, anything else in there, in the coffin. So, no body in the coffin. And at this point, I was thinking to myself that I don't think Beth, Elena's mother, was in on Elena and Misty's murder, or knew the body wasn't in the coffin, because if she did, there would be no reason why she would, allow them to exhume her body if she knew it wasn't there, which brought me to think of my predictions last time I made a video on this show that I was thinking that there were two scenarios with Elena's father, Carlos. I was thinking that either he had known that had not buried his daughter in the coffin whatsoever, or B, found out that Elena or Beth was going to allow them to exhume Elena's body, and then had her dug up. But prior to that, or eventually thought that someone was going to exhume her body and had it dug up and taken out. But I kind of nixed that second idea fairly early on after I made that. But I still figured that he knew about it, because otherwise he wouldn't have been so hell-bent on not having his daughter's body exhumed. So, anyway, that brings us to Rosie and Villa going coffin shopping. Villa go to the, to the, what the fuck is that place called? The mortuary. What is it called? Mortuary. And so they come up with this cover story about how they're there to pre-purchase a coffin for Via's mother, who is going to pass away fairly shortly. So they're in the market for a coffin. And Via's like, what's the rate for buying an empty coffin? Like buying and burying an empty coffin. And the funeral director named Barnabas Rudd says he doesn't do that sort of thing, but Via's like, you know what, stop fucking around and tell me what the fuck I want to know. And he's like, oh, detective, I meant to call you. I meant to get back. I meant to call you back and everything. Like, bullshit. Like, boy, you know you weren't going to call her ass back. Like, you know you were never going to call her back. But whatever. Let's just stick with your story there for a while. So Rudd says that it wasn't his idea to bury the coffin empty. It was Carlos's idea. Carlos had paid a lot of money in cash to just take Lena's body, but Rudd doesn't know where he took her. Back at the station, Slade and Hornstock had found out, due to Carlos, that Rosie and Villa had reopened the case. And once in Slade's office, they asked Carlos why he paid to have Lena's coffin be buried empty. It turns out Carlos had her cremated. TMI brings in Daisy Wick from the hit TV show Bones, which I've loved since I first started watching it myself, but that's besides the point. Anyway, so Daisy Wick comes in to help. If you don't know who Daisy Wick is, she is a character on the show Bones. And I mean, the show Bones centers on a forensic anthropologist named Temperance Brennan. Daisy Wick is first off, Temperance Brennan works at the Smithsonian, and she's the lead she's a head anthropologist there, a forensic anthropologist, and Daisy is I know she was an intern there previously. I don't think she's an intern there anymore. She does help out once in a while in cases. Not so much anymore because of if you know what's happened in recent seasons, and you know why she's not really there all that much. But anyway, so Daisy's not there as much helping out with cases because she's not really intern, and interns usually help Brennan with cases more often than people who aren't interns. So anyway, she that's the little backstory on Daisy. Anyway, so Daisy has found a piece of ruby with some titanium that slipped through the cremation process, and Donna thinks Elena was wearing jewelry that sounds awfully familiar to that, and then remembers Gerald had shown her a picture of Michelle wearing a ruby and titanium necklace. Misty apparently had one too, so it's not really that much of a coincidence that these girls were wearing that necklace. TMI points out there are some serial killers that who take trophies, but maybe this one gave gifts, or the exact same gift. Michelle's cousin Lonnie has brought her stuff in. There's a fake ID in there, a fake Maryland ID, and it looks pretty legit. So Rosie and Villa go meet with someone who could possibly know who someone who makes these IDs. They meet with this guy named Juju. He has someone making IDs for him, or there's this person off to the side that's making IDs for people, and Juju introduces them to Manny, who's the guy who's making IDs. He tells them Michelle's fake isn't his work, but it's the work of someone named who goes by the name of Lowdown, who is his mentor. So back at the station, Via tells Slade about Lowdown, and how he had made IDs for all 3 girls, along with half of their classmates. Now it turns out Michelle also helped sell them. The mother of Elena and Misty helped ban Lowdown from the school. And so Slade's like, go get Lowdown so he can be brought in to talk. But turns out he isn't local, he's in Cuba. And once in Cuba, they meet with Lowdown and threaten to have him put in prison, either in Cuban prison or in where the Panamanian prison. I think I said that right. Because Elena's father is a Panama diplomat. So anyway, so he's like, no, I didn't kill them. I'll if you promise not to, rat me out to his father, for helping supply a fake ID to Elena, I'll show you. I'll bring you somewhere to show you that I'm not the one who killed these girls. So he brings them to a hotel, or to this apartment complex in Cuba, and they realize Michelle is alive and well, albeit in Cuba. So she tells them that living with Gerald was unbearable because he was mad at the world, and she seemed to not to be able to do anything right, no matter what. And she had met her boyfriend Harley, who was older, secure, and stable. So she ran away with him, although she stayed in Miami for a bit once stories of the murders broke out. Then made her way to Cuba with him. She thinks her father killed the girls because he was this volatile person and all this stuff. Via then tells her that Misty and Lena both had ruby and titanium necklaces. Michelle looked genuinely shocked they had them, personally in my opinion. So I think that was like the first inkling that kind of like, or seed that was planted in her mind, where she didn't really think that her father was the killer. Anyway, Via then threatens Michelle with not being able to go back to the U.S., but that doesn't work with her. Rosie tells her that Gerald thinks she's dead, but she obviously wants that to continue because she doesn't trust him and feel safe with him. And he tries again by saying that Gerald is innocent. Michelle's like, you just said that you can't prove that he's innocent. And then Sophia then finally gets through to Michelle by telling her that the one person that can help them get to the truth refuses to try to help and see if Gerald is actually guilty of these murders. So they bring her back to the U.S. and as Gerald is, pushing a cart somewhere. I think it's like a cart full of books for the library or something like that. He sees Michelle is alive and well in the news. Via then thinks Michelle's hiding something, and Rosie then goes back to, look at Elena's ashes, and as Michelle is being brought out to get dropped off at Harley's place, she bumped into Lonnie and is obviously spooked. In the car, Via asks Michelle about it and is told that that Michelle had shoplifted a lot and Lonnie had caught her one time, and then told her father about it. Misty and Lena found out about her shoplifting, bullied her about it, and then would accuse her of stealing the stuff all the time. Via then tells Michelle her blood was on the Misty's jeans, but Michelle doesn't know anything about how that could have gotten there. Via then says that the two girls who bullied her, it says that the fact that the two girls who bullied her wound up dead, her father, the father she hates, winds up taking the fall for the murders, and then she skips town by going to Cuba. It sounds very suspect, which I think is a very valid concern on Via's part. Via then drops Michelle off at her boyfriend Harley's place. At the lab, Daisy tells Rosie that there's a fragment she found that's still intact. I don't remember what the fragment was called because it was all, I guess, it was in scientific terms, so I don't know. And they say it so fucking fast, like, I can't, I mean, it's gonna take me like 20 minutes to figure out what the fuck she said. So anyway, Donna then speaks with Rosie privately and tells him that Gerald knows Michelle is alive, and that's why Michelle won't go see him since he's innocent. And Rosie's like, well, everyone knows that he's innocent. It's just the fact that Via doesn't think that she is. She's like the only one who doesn't think she's innocent. And so the drug results then come in, and Elena was drugged with morphine and fentanyl just before she died. So I had a really curious question about that. How, I mean, I can understand that I can possibly see how the morphine and the fentanyl would possibly still be in Elena's bone marrow 10 years later. I can excuse the whole morphine and fentanyl being in her bone marrow 10 years later. I can excuse that. What I don't get is how they know that it was administered into her bloodstream right before she died. Like, how do you know that it was right before she died? I mean, don't you have to have blood tests to determine that? I mean, but this is bone marrow and ash and all this stuff. So how do you? I mean, I guess maybe I guess the fact that if it's still showing up 10 years later, then I guess one could safely assume that she was given the morphine and fentanyl right before she died. But I mean, that's assuming that it would still be in her bloodstream to begin with, or in her bone marrow to begin with. So I mean, that's assuming it's still there 10 years later. So I don't know. It just seems kind of implausible that you'd be able to tell for sure, 100% for certain, that this stuff was administered into her just before she died. So it kind of seems like that'd be kind of hard to determine 10 years later. I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's just me. I mean, I wasn't really ever into science, but that's just what it seems to me. So if anybody who watches this recap and review who has always had an interest in science and or has a degree in science and any sort of science background can tell me in the comments below if that's actually true or not. Please tell me, because it just seemed kind of implausible to me. And I mean, as much as I love the show, there are some things where you just can't, like, excuse too much. I mean, as much as you want to love a show, as much as you love a show dearly, you can't really excuse too much of it sometimes. So anyway, and I have another, little critique of this particular episode myself, about myself, like another part of this episode that I really just had a critique about, but I'll wait until after I finish recapping the rest of this. So anyway, so they then all wonder why this wasn't in the original autopsy or original report of Elena's case, and they all Mitchie thinks that someone just mistakenly forgot to put it in, but Rosie thinks that someone purposely left it out. And back at the station, Rosie, Via, and Hornstock tell Slade that the ME who did the autopsy gave the toxicology report to the detective on the case, and that the detective gave the toxicology to the prosecutor, or the former prosecutor, Ernie Portnoy. So the only person who could have left it out was Ernie. Slade then wants to get him in there. Hornstock tells him that Ernie said he will never in his life agree to talk to them if it's about the Kelly case. So Rosie says he has an idea on how to get him in there. Next thing you see is Juju walking in with Ernie. Juju has a neck brace on and is walking with a cane and stuff. And Ernie asks who the detective was who beat his client up, and Villa steps up and says it was me. A little bit later, once in the conference room, it's revealed to Ernie that this was all a ruse to get him in there. Villa tells him that they know he admitted the toxicology report from the defense so he could get another win. Ernie reveals that the reason he admitted that stuff was because the person the evidence pointed to had used the same drugs on other girls, but Ernie calls them incidents. Like, boy, get your life. Like, you know, they weren't just incidents. Like, you know that he had the reason he was doing it was to get fucking laid, and the only way he could do that was to drug these women to lower their inhibitions, which would make their consent null and void, basically. So you know that's the reason why he was doing it. So shut up. Anyway, he admitted the person admitted them because the person he pointed to was his godson, and he didn't want his godson's name dragged through the mud. And I'm just like, please stop. Anyway. Turns out his godson's name is Gunnar Tegan, who is a trust fund baby, and they ask him what he knows about Elena, and he says he gave Elena drugs, but she left him alive, like a few minutes later, because she wouldn't, do whatever the fuck he wanted. Back at the lab, Villa tells Rosie that Gunnar passed the polygraph. And Rosie's like, I don't think Michelle is guilty, even though you do, because there's no way Gerald would walk out of prison. No, Michelle would take his place, which I think is a very valid thing to consider. Rosie then has a nightmare again about the bunker and Misty telling him the evidence isn't there. Rosie and Villa then go back to the bunker and uses a device to detect her radiation, and Rosie finds radium in the bunker. Back at the lab, he tells everyone that radium seeped into the bunker everywhere, in the air, the ground, everywhere. So he's like, if Elena was in the bunker the entire time she was missing, the device he used on the bunker, inside the bunker itself, would detect radium that would still be in her bones even after cremation, because apparently, according to Daisy, radium has a half-life of 1,600 years. Turns out there's no radium in in her bones at all, meaning she wasn't killed there. And the person who did kill her wanted to look like she was killed there. So when Gerald was found out near there, it would make him look suspicious. Back at the station, Villa then tells the team that Lena was last seen in Gunnar's house, and her body was found in the soccer field. Slade thinks that Elena was held within a detached garage on someone's property. The autopsy found a substance that was associated with her art class that used when they used ceramics. But Rosie doesn't think that it was specifically just for the art class. It could have been in anything. And Slade brings up this paint that he uses on his boat so that particles won't get stuck on his hull. And Rosie thinks that Elena was held in the boathouse. At the boathouse, Villa sees a picture of a bunch of students who graduated from the boat school, and Michelle is part of the class. And Pippi realizes that Donna is with Michelle and Harley. Michelle at Harley's house, Michelle says that she isn't surprised that Joe charmed Donna into thinking that he was innocent. And when Donna shows pictures of the crime scene, crime scenes, Michelle realizes someone gave Elena her belongings, like her jeans that Misty was wearing and then her necklace that Elena was wearing. Michelle realizes that her father didn't know about the bunker, but she did. And when she tries to get both her and Donna out of there, Harley comes out and says that they aren't going anywhere. Villa and Rosie get to the house, but find it that Harley has filled the place with gas. Harley killed these girls so that Gerald wouldn't hurt Michelle anymore. And eventually Rosie, having left the front door open to allow the gas to escape, to allow a majority of the gas to escape so that they won't blow to pieces, hits him and get to let Villa, cuff him. Adrian and Villa then share a moment back at the station, and I personally still do not trust Adrian. I personally don't. I think there's something up with him. Like, I mean, maybe that's just me being a pessimist, but I really do not trust him at all. I think there's something up with him personally, but because in the past I've seen the guy who plays Adrian on other shows where he plays the bad guy, and so he tends to play the bad guy in a lot of shows. So maybe that's just my bias of seeing him in other things, being the bad guy, that makes me think that he's playing a bad guy. But I mean, if he tends to play the bad guy all the time, I'm inclined to believe he's going to be a bad guy here. So anyway, as Harley is walked outside in cuffs, Carlos shoots and kills him. And we come to find out when Rosie and Villa and Donna are outside waiting for Gerald to come out that Carlos has been brought back to Panama, and he via deportation, and is being dealt with there. Gerald is then released from prison, and Michelle comes to see him and hug and have this beautiful moment. And like I said, Rosewood is not coming back until January, it looks like. So we'll have to wait until then to see new episodes, but at least Rosewood has at least gone until the beginning of December to air their episodes, unlike Loner SVU, who only aired like 5 or 6 episodes. Sorry, I'm butthurt over that. I'm really butthurt over that. So anyway, so my other critique of this particular episode and this plot line is that I found it too convenient that he wasn't the killer. I thought it would have been more. What's the word? Heartbreaking and backstabbish if we found out that Gerald Gerald was the person who actually committed these murders. I thought it would have been more hurting, it would have hurt more to find out that he committed these murders, because we care about Donna. I personally don't care about Gerald myself, but I care about Donna, and I didn't want to see her. I didn't necessarily want to see her hurt because of Gerald lying. So I thought it would have hurt more if we found out that Gerald actually did kill these girls, and therefore it devastated Donna. I would have been more invested in seeing that. I mean, maybe that's just me being a pessimist, but I still would have liked that, or I would have taken that more than just oh, he didn't do it, and here's it just all of a sudden, like, he didn't do it. Like, I mean, I would have. So I think it just, like I said, it would have hurt. It would have been more heartbreaking to see that he actually did do it, and Donna was severely heartbroken because of it, and all that, because it would have just been more real to me that way, than, oh, he didn't do it, and just like in a split second he didn't do it. Like, it would have been more real than just a split second he didn't do it. Because it just 1 second he it seemed like he did do it, and then 1 second he didn't. It's like, it just seemed too convenient to me that way. And just like I said, like I keep saying, it would have been more real if they all had found out that he had actually done it, and Donna got heartbroken because she fell in love with this man who she thought was innocent, because she had fallen in love with him, and stuff like that. So that's my gripe with it. So maybe it's just me being a pessimist, who knows, but that's what I think should have had happened. But anyway, so that is all I have for right now, for Rosewood. See you guys when we come back. But just to remind you, I'm still doing Elementary. I think there's just one more episode for Elementary until they do a winter finale, but there's still Vikings that I'm doing since it just started this past Wednesday. So I will continue to do Vikings until it stops, until the 20th episode of the fourth season. So I will see you guys for, I guess, the last episode for this year for Elementary, and I will see you guys also for Vikings. With that said, I'll see you guys later, and I hope you have a lovely, lovely weekend, and hope it's stress-free for you guys. Bye!